Hey guys, welcome to Finally Clicked, the podcast where we discuss business, leadership, and personal development. My name is Margaret Smith, and I'm the Director of Operations for Pickett Street Properties, a real estate team out of Bothell, Washington. And I'll be here every week with our owner and team leader, Jesse D. Moore. We'll be digging into concepts and ideas that have helped us both personally and professionally, and you'll also get a chance to hear from local and national experts that we know provide massive value to get to the point where it all finally clicks. What is that?
That ain't whiskey, folks.
It's so clear.
I gotta move my mic, but I'm afraid it'll make too much noise.
Just roll with it.
I apologize in advance for the sounds you're about to hear. That's better.
That was very quiet.
I'm a delicate flower.
You're so graceful.
I am.
Wow.
Like a gazelle.
What are we drinking?
We are drinking Gruner Veltliner.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of Gruner Veltliner?
I have never. No.
Gruner Veltliner. It's a organic grape from Austria.
Austria.
This one is made in Austria.
Oh my gosh. Sound of Music kind of style.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes, you get to skip through the Alps.
Perfect.
And drink Gruner Veltliner
At the same time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, shoot. Goodness.
I'm making sure.
Oh my gosh. I just realized we don't have our ASMR box in here. I might need to go get it. You want to keep
We're going back to primitive man.
You keep them entertained because we got a new addition to
No,
our
you
ASMR.
can't leave it ever again.
Dang it. We got an addition to our ASMR box.
What?
A special gift from NG. Pop Rocks. Oh, wow, that's delicious.
Now soliciting wine vendors for advertising.
Hey, maybe that'll be
F
easier.
the whiskey people.
F the whiskey people for sure. They've been too slow to respond. Talk about warm lead. We've been a warm lead for a long time. This is delicious. God, I wish you could taste it with me.
It's, let's describe it. How would you describe it?
Well, it tastes like fresh Maui ocean,
Oh my goodness. No, it doesn't.
palm trees and sunshine.
I think your memories are bleeding into your tongue.
Let's see. I'm not very good at this, but I'm going to attempt.
I would say it's crisp.
Green grapes.
It's bright. Are you saying that the wine tastes like grapes? It actually tastes like green apple.
Yes. Well, thank you. I was close.
Green apple is different than green grapes.
What else do you taste? Because you're more
Margaret's
the
like, it tastes like Welch's.
you are more the
This
sommelier
is the
than I
longest
am.
we've whispered forever.
Is it really?
Yeah. Your earrings are like wind chimes.
They're perfect for ASMR days. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
That was enjoyable.
Can we talk normal now?
Yes.
Welcome, Margaret. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Everyone else, welcome to Finally Click Podcast with your hosts, Jesse Moore.
And Margaret Smith.
Drinking wine today.
Mm-hmm.
Tired of these whiskey. These whiskey people just don't get it.
You know, you kind of made the executive decision to bring the wine, and I have to say I'm 150% behind it because I agree.
I I find whiskey at 1:30 in the afternoon.
To be just a little
Just
early?
a little.
Really? Usually we're game for it.
It just makes it hard to do any work thereafter.
Well, true. Yeah. No, and the wine's just a beautiful switch up for a moment.
Well, it's summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And
I thought you were going to go with rosé, though.
I drank all the rosé.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have one bottle.
Or
in my
I gave
fridge.
it away.
You did.
I gave you some rosé. I gave Cody a bottle.
What do you think?
I gave Scott Ferris a bottle.
Oh. What'd they think?
They think I'm a generous person. That's all. That's all I've heard. That's all I've heard from them on that matter.
Well, how was it last week recording the podcast?
Recording the podcast?
Yeah. Having the guest. You did a great job, I thought, with Todd. It was an inspiring podcast session. And he's already had one request to speak, which we're really thrilled about.
There are 2 podcasts that I listen to where they don't always have guests, and it's just one person riffing the whole time.
Oh.
And they're both comedians. One is This Past Weekend by Theo Von. And he often has guests now, but he'll riff for sometimes he'll go for an hour with no guests, whatever, at all. And
Wow.
Chris D'Elia has a podcast called Congratulations. And
That's cute.
he's only ever had one guest. On his 100th episode, he had his brother on.
Wow.
And he's on episode 130. So he's done 129 episodes by himself.
That's impressive.
And as a comedian, I think it's a pretty amazing practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're testing yourself.
Force yourself to have an opinion, to think, and to say things, and it's pretty funny. And with you gone, I don't know, it felt super awkward.
I think I would feel awkward too.
Well, because
I've listened to a few of those podcasts. I was going to ask you, it was actually really hard for me to pay attention and keep my attention. It was almost like listening to an audiobook, but even an audiobook is easier to follow along.
Then the podcast without you?
No, not your podcast. Another one that I've listened to where it's just one voice. And the variance between our, two tones is easier to listen to.
Yeah.
So you have to be
So it was weird doing the intro and the outro. I'm a feedback junkie, and it was like being in
an empty room by yourself.
An empty room.
Yeah.
No echo, right?
Yeah.
I like even just I feed off your body language and what you say and everything else.
Yeah.
And you're a good foil to me. So
Foil?
yeah, it's an English term.
Oh my gosh.
So in a book,
I've not heard that.
like the antagonist to the protagonist.
Okay.
So the rival, he's the foil. He's the person that the main character
Is it
is
spelled the same way?
pushing against. FOIL. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I was talking with somebody who listens to our podcasts.
Yes,
completely.
please share.
And he brought up that he learns a word from every episode.
Cut it out, really?
No, for real.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
I actually love
today,
that. Word of the week.
The word of the week is foil. And not Reynolds wrap. So he brought that up. He brought quite a number of other things up too.
I think we should, just launch right into this episode. It's going to be a good, awkward time.
I know. It's interesting that I had this conversation because you got feedback that someone
Yeah. Actually, and I don't know very well.
Loves the awkward conversations between you and I.
Particularly. Mm-hmm.
And
strange what people get into.
And I understand it.
Yeah.
I was in the gentleman I was speaking with. We talked about how often after the interview, after we interview somebody, you and I have time afterward to talk, and sometimes that's the best part of the episode, where
it's very flattering.
Things come up, and you and I have to
discuss.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Fierce Conversations, which we talk a lot about, but Fierce and Awkward. Number one, you don't really find people having these conversations on social media or in anywhere that's recorded. Oh, more wine, yes. And number two, people aren't having them even in real life. So I think it's kind of like we discussed it at the team meeting. It's like watching The Office, and for some people who have issues with anxiety or social anxiety, they have a really hard time watching The Office. I think you said your friend had a hard time listening to some of the episodes, like wanted to turn it off.
Well, because it was uncomfortable for him to hear the awkwardness between you and I at times, which I think that's all momentary.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I never know. I can be a pessimist when it comes to those conversations, and I kind of roll my eyes and go, "Oh goodness, how are we gonna get out of this one?" So,
if you had to put a number to it, how many awkward conversations do you think we've had?
I mean, I prefer to have no more. I mean, that's not true. I always like having the conversation.
Yeah.
And I know things are never going to be perfect. So, I mean, I hope we have thousands.
I mean, before this, though, how many have we had in the 6.5 years? Countless, right? Like, I have to say probably 50?
Way more.
Probably, right?
One a week for sure.
Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to give people context. They have an idea of like how we approach these conversations.
I bet I don't like that it's once a week.
Sure.
And what I mean by awkwardness is...
Could be any level of awkward.
I would say it's emotional in part. I would say that one of us isn't being completely forthright and is hiding...
Or like anxious and...
Hiding behind some construct or some mask. Until we have time to talk about it for real or in depth. Yeah.
So that's actually like, there's like 48 weeks in a year.
52.
52, thank you. So that's a lot of conversations.
You just cut a whole month off. You're like, what are there, 11 months in a year?
That's a lot of conversations. Yeah. You get really good at it. Like you get better at it anyway. You get more comfortable with it.
Really? I just keep hoping that we're so good at it we don't have to do it anymore.
I think it has gotten fewer and far between.
I mean, like you went on vacation and I thought, great, when you get back you'll be refreshed. No awkwardness. No awkward conversations. And I didn't even hardly get to say hello before the awkwardness started. Goodness gracious.
Right.
Have you had any further thoughts on that?
Which part of the awkward conversation?
Well, any thoughts on our conversation yesterday morning? Did you think much more about it?
What day is it? It's Thursday. Today's Wednesday. I'm not going to remember which day or which conversation. So there's the conversation about the changing of the rooms is where it all began.
Let's back it up. Gotta back it up for everybody else, but Margaret for sure. All right, so I had a crazy busy weekend, Friday through Monday, and you actually mentioned I could, take Monday. I said I'm gonna take Monday morning off for sure. You said take the whole day off.
I said just stay home,
which is I appreciated, and was probably necessary, but I took the kids to Michael Franti concert Friday. Took them to Toy Story 4 Saturday morning. Went to a summer barbecue an hour away.
That's a lot of summer
Saturday
fun.
night. Sunday went to Sublime with Rome.
Well, sounds like all good stuff.
At an outdoor concert. Monday celebrated a friend's birthday. Took them wine tasting and to lunch. Oh, it was all good stuff, but I mean there was no downtime. So
Were you a little over socialized?
I was very much over socialized. And you came back to work on Monday. So you were here. Which, by the way, okay, note to self number 1. I shouldn't take the first day you get back off. Because then I feel like these thoughts, they grow in your brain like fungus, like mushrooms. They take root. The spores.
Like mushrooms?
No,
really?
It's like the spores are just floating around the air. And without me there, they take root.
Oh, my God.
And they grow. And then by the time I show up 24 hours later.
Welcome to my life, people.
24 hours later. It's like fully engulfed, like a bad orange. It's like a bad orange crusted white with fungus. God. And little did I know that when I walked in Tuesday morning, I was walking into a petri dish of thoughts and emotions and decisions and conversations that I've never had. And I was so happy to see you. And all I could say was like, I'm so happy to see you. How was your vacation? and you smiled at me like Jack Nicholson. Like Jack Nicholson is, you know what I mean? Like
I
that
actually
scary
know that smile.
That smile that's like this wide, crazy-eyed smile.
Oh my God.
That's used to cover up what's really in your mind or in your head. And so you smile at me with this Jack Nicholson smile.
I believe there was someone else in the room when you first came in.
Oh, shit. What is this about? Like, I just got here. How is this possible? She just went on vacation for a week. How is it even possible she can have any form of resentment or anything, any issues with me whatsoever?
Do we need to start doing the resentment circle?
I'm not talking about resentment, sir. I'm still trying to get through welcoming you back from vacation. I haven't gotten to that point yet. So I welcome you back from vacation.
We were actually in the room for like a half an hour with someone else that was in there chatting with me when you came in.
Okay, so yeah. So I come in, I pull in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. I can only see the bottom 2 feet of your office, and I see 8 pairs of legs. And I'm like,
it's a party happening right now.
Exactly. It barely fits 8 pairs of legs. And so I'm like, oh, goodness, that didn't take long. Margaret's back for a minute, and social hour is beginning. So then someone walks out. I ask them what's going on. I figure out what's going on. I go inside, and it's our team leader and assistant team leader, essentially, talking to you. Mm-hmm. And so we deal with that for half an hour. Mm-hmm. And during, like, in the middle, I go, hi, Mo. Like, I just wave at you like we haven't had a chance to, like, interface. And then they leave, and that was what it was. And then I was like, hey, how was your vacation? How, I'm all excited. I'm more excited than you are, obviously. And that's the first alarm. That's like the first warning sign.
Oh, my gosh.
And then you make small talk. And again, that Jack Nicholson smile, there's something behind there that you're waiting for me to fall into a trap.
You really are an incredible storyteller.
And then you went into Jessica's 411.
Oh, how she said it was the best part of her week.
You had gotten feedback that Jessica said.
Sarah told me.
Me and her doing her 411 was like the best part of her week.
Yeah.
To which I don't know if there's just shock and surprise on your part there, or you're still leading me to water. You're leading me to this one thing you want to talk about. So you're like, oh, how did Jessica's 411 go? And I'm like, I have no idea that you're trying to trick me. And so I'm like, oh, it's great, and this is what happened, and that's what happened.
Oh my God.
And then I go, oh, oddly enough, we talked about soon she'll be moving into the buyer office. And I go, and the next day she just moved in there. Like I didn't tell her to move in. I said, soon we'll move in there, or you'll move in there.
She thought you said, like, go for it.
I didn't say move your stuff. Like,
That's
right.
What she said?
No, not at all. I just said, soon this will happen. So the next day I come to work and her stuff is moved in there. So Jessica's very proactive, which I commend her for.
Yes.
So I kind of mention it like,
we like proactivity.
Ha ha ha, that crazy girl. That crazy girl, Jessica. She just, what a girl, what a worker. She moved her stuff in there. And then the Jack Nicholson smile kind of like melts.
I have a Jack Nicholson smile.
It kind of melted into like, I don't know, like Sling Blade. Have you ever seen Sling Blade?
No.
Okay, I gotta think. I can't think of a great example. Sling Blade is not a great example either. Margaret is Googling, Sling
Blade
now to see what I'm talking about. And this could be bad for me.
Just so everybody knows, this
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton?
Yeah, it was his, like, that's how Billy Bob Thornton made it big, is he played this character. He has a prominent underbite. I don't know why I thought of that. But it's like your smile melted into like an underbite.
Oh my God, if you guys have a computer or phone near you, definitely Google this.
And so your smile melted into Sling Blade's
like
face.
This crazy psycho.
And then I was like, oh, okay. There's something here.
Oh my gosh.
I'm talking a lot. Do you want to interject at any time?
You just let me know when you're ready.
All right. So then that was the first warning flare, that
So the look.
there was an issue about the room.
Yeah.
And then you said, I thought Sarah and I were moving into that office. And I'm like, I have short-term memory problems, for real. And you know this. And I remember talking about you bringing it up, that you and Sarah. So the buyer's office is the largest office that we have. It has 4 desks, 4 computers, and it has a large window that faces it's an internal window.
Yeah.
It's like a relight that faces the front entry. And so when people come in, they can see what's happening in that
right away
room. And you were thinking that.
So I brought it up to you as such. I said, hey, remember that conversation we had about changing offices? I wanted to try and do that before Jessica moved. But I knew you weren't 100% on it. So I was bringing it back up because we have 2 lovely new teammates starting next week. And so I like to get things situated before new people start. And so I was bringing it up again because I knew that Sarah and I would have time to do it, because it would take a couple hours, probably 4 to 5 hours actually, to move all of our stuff and switch it up and get things ready. And so I wanted to do it this week. So I brought it up and I said, hey, noticed Jessica moved in already. Did you have any other thoughts about this? Because your first reaction was really like, I don't think that's a good idea. And I said, okay, well, why don't you just think on it? And that was probably 2 weeks ago.
It was probably, yeah.
It's a while
it was
ago.
probably 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about it, and I didn't say no, because I don't generally say no. Not right away. I could
tell you were definitely not into the idea.
I was definitely not into it.
Yeah.
But I said, let's talk about it later.
What was your primary reason for not being into it?
Oh, we'll get into them. All of my reasons. And so you brought it up, we started talking about the room, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it's clicking. Like, this is, for whatever reason, Margaret's upset about this. And so then it got weird fast, because you have a smile on, but it doesn't feel genuine. Like, it feels forced. Like, I'm going to wear this mask so you don't know how enraged I am. So you remember I'm trying to remember, when was it that time? When was it that I text messaged you about you being angry?
It was after my interview with Christy Belt-Grossman, and you were like, oh, okay. That's the face.
So Christy Belt-Grossman interviews Margaret on IGU, our Instagram series that we do. And I watched it, and in there you mentioned, how did you reference anger?
I'm trying to remember how it came up in that conversation, actually. I don't remember right now, actually.
I just remember there was an aha for me, and that is that when that look that I get from you in this moment, and the look I was seeing there was anger. Like, you were upset. You were angry. And again, realize my context. You'd just been in Maui for like 8-9 days. So I'm like, oh, she's going to feel refreshed, and it's never fun coming back from vacation. You always want to stay longer, but you're going to feel like somewhat refreshed, ready to come back to work. I mean, I sent you gifts over there to make your experience better. I'm open doors to make sure that you could go on vacation. I did everything possible to support you going on vacation. And I walk into work the first day, and you're mad at me. And I'm like, what the F is this about? So then you're hiding emotionally behind this smile.
I wasn't actually hiding emotionally.
No, you always do this. You say, I'm fine.
Because I was.
But you say with a
smile. Outside of this issue.
Well, you don't say outside of this issue.
I did. I said in the moment, I said, everything else is fine. There's nothing else going on. This is the only thing I wanted to talk about. But you attach it to other things. You'd attached it to me coming back, or like saying like, I have this feeling whenever I get back from a vacation. But it was actually just about this room change, just that conversation. But I don't think you totally believe me.
No, I mean, you are very much bothered, and you weren't talking to me about it.
It was all of 2 minutes, and then you called me into your office, and we continued our conversation there.
For awkwardly for 30 seconds. It didn't last very long.
It was fine. After that, we were
No,
good.
No, we weren't good.
I was good.
Yeah, I was not. I was spiraling.
Well, I'm not in charge of other people's feelings, right? We've had that conversation.
Oh, you are a little bit.
I told you, and I was honest with you, and that's all I can do. That's all I can do. I was very honest with you. That was the entire conversation.
No, but you said things the next day that you could have said in that moment. She's making faces. For our audio listeners, Margaret is making faces.
All I can do is say in the moment what I have in my head, and if it doesn't suffice, that's the best of my ability.
That's a cop-out. And here's why it's a cop-out. Well, and listen, there's so many people listening to this that I think have either felt like you or have felt like me, or both, right? And that's why I feel like it's important for us to talk about it. And I think it's a cop-out for one part of a relationship to go, that's on you. Just like to throw up your hands and say that's on you.
Even if it's not my feelings, not my emotions.
I'm not an idiot. I know what your looks mean. You were upset and you weren't telling me the reason why.
I actually did tell you. I was very open about the fact that it was about the energy, and I'm concerned about people coming into the team, and I wanted the flow of the energy to be good. And I had a conversation with Jessica, our buyer's agent, that morning about it, and asked her opinion since I knew she'd already moved in there. And I wanted to make sure she was okay if I did it and adjust something. But I literally I consider the office and the environment to be my responsibility. I always have, even before it technically was. Like, I want it to be open and welcoming, and I'm very aware of where people are situated and how that impacts their experience. And I want the new agents to walk by you. I want them to be next to you, specifically.
Okay.
So I had said that morning. We talked about the energy of it. We talked more about recruiting the next day.
No, here's my point. You pleaded your case on the office. You did not tell me that you were upset about Jessica moving into the office.
Oh, I wasn't specifically upset about Jessica moving. Like, you had said for her to move, so of course she would do it.
Okay, you're splitting hairs.
Okay.
You were upset that I had made a decision or some action had taken place in regards to that room without your knowledge or consideration.
I mean, I would have moved forward and moved the offices. I was not actually upset about just the move happening. No, I just knew that you didn't want it to happen. I knew that you didn't want me to move in there. It wasn't about Jessica moving.
Okay. So what were you upset about?
In that moment, that you disagreed with me.
Okay. So my point is, you were upset with me because I disagreed with you. You did not say that the first day.
Okay.
At all.
Okay.
At any point in time.
All right.
She's making faces again.
Sometimes we remember conversations differently. And so that is actually why I write stuff down sometimes.
Yeah, well, I remember things because I'm waiting for it to be said so I can move on. And so I have a pretty clear memory when you don't say something. So I was expressly waiting for you to explain why you were upset, and it didn't happen.
Okay.
So we go about our day. We just agree to disagree. I go into my room. I make calls all day. I do what I have to do. You do what you have to do. Because I've learned that it doesn't. Actually, this is an interesting thing I realized with you. And you may not agree with me. We'll see. But it's always. Nothing bothers you. Nothing seems to bother you a little bit. It's always a lot. Like, it's never like, oh, okay, and then we move past it and move on. It's like a whole day thing. And then so I've learned to try to table it and bring it up the following day. Right? So the next morning, I just say, I just called you into my office first thing. I said, hey, and I was just trying to be as honest and authentic as possible. And I just said, hey, you really bummed me out yesterday. And you bummed me out because I didn't know why you were upset. I think I figured it out as I thought about it, and as I collected data, I thought I'd figured it out. But I didn't hear that from you. And so I didn't like that such a scene was made over something that seemed so inconsequential in the grand scope of things, and that my day would be energetically victimized because of this thing that I don't think matters to a high degree. And so we had a great conversation yesterday morning, and we had resolution, and we're fine. And we thought we should talk about it.
Are you regretting your decision right now?
I'm starting to. But.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of different things you said there. One of the things I want to say is you said I only respond in a passionate or large way to to anything if something comes up. Maybe part of the issue is that a lot of small things come up, and I never tell you if I'm upset. I do let those things go. I don't talk about them. I only respond or speak up when it's something that I believe will impact the business in a huge way, or impact me in a big way, or impact you. I only speak up when I'm very passionately concerned or really want to throw my weight behind something I believe in. And this particular topic is that, because for me it was, and I explained this yesterday, I think, not the first day. I believe that it, as silly as it sounds, that where people are situated in the office affects retention. And that's why I got so passionate about it, is because I feel like I've been on a bit of a hamster wheel with hiring and recruiting, and it's exhausting me. And I want people to stick around. I care very much about, and I know you do too, I care about the people we bring on, and I want people to stick for longer than 6 months to a year. And so I do. I would still pick up my stuff and move it to that office and switch, because I think it's important for the new people to have to walk past the front area and come to the back, and thus have to see me and Sarah in the front, and see you and Jessica as they walk in. I don't know if it's just a mental thing, but I've just discovered, I feel since we've gotten new people in the last 3 years, that putting them in that office over there is even though it's only 2 doors down, it's a difference. It's a space, and I don't like it. It bugs me as much as I try to make an effort to go down there and back. And I know we talk all the time. I'm very conscious of energy flow and where people are at. And, I'm very passionate about that. So that's why I responded that way.
I'm a little less militant in my use of energy, or in my belief of it.
Yes. Yeah.
I believe in it as I believe.
Which is funny, because you talk about my energy on, we've talked about on this podcast so much. It's a big deal to you.
No, it is a big deal. But so is height and width and depth and volume and everything else. Your current office fits 2 people nicely. Mm-hmm. It would not fit 4 salespeople talking on the phone well. Mm-hmm. And so you're moving 2 people into a space that's built for 4 people, and 4 people into a space that's built for 2 people. Mm-hmm. You have a room where the 2 people aren't on the phone all that much, and the 4 people are always on the phone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if space were an issue, I would even consider putting an agent in my office then. I'm that serious about it. So that's the whole, I don't know if impetus is the right word. That's the whole beginning of that conversation, and that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Right. And I did make so we came to an understanding that, and you said that you were upset because, I was overruling you, or that I hadn't taken your thoughts and feelings into consideration. And I explained that's not what happened. I had mentioned it in passing to Jessica. I didn't know she was going to be so proactive as to just move her stuff in there. I also had short-term memory loss, where I didn't remember that you wanted to move in there. And when you brought it up, I didn't want you to move in there. But it wasn't an intentional decision on my part to go against your.
No, I knew that you saying
wishes.
Jessica, go ahead and move wasn't that at all.
Yeah.
She took it as see you later.
But I did say to you, the only part I really care about this conversation is that I do need you to protect my energy, and you and I know each other well enough to know that I don't want you to jettison my positivity or my energy first thing in the morning. I need you to protect it. I need you to help me protect it. because you're your own. You have your own way of processing things. I have my own way of processing things, and it just so happens that both of us have a hard time resetting in the same 24-hour period without a night's rest. And so I ask you, what's that face for when I say that?
That's just hard for me to. It's hard for me. There's no perfect time, which is why I think, like we often talk about with fierce conversations or awkward conversations, there's no perfect time for a conversation.
Well, if I were to pick the less ideal time, I'd say right after you've been on vacation for, 7 days.
What's the perfect time?
And right as we greet each other and start to plan out the day and the week.
Okay. When's the perfect time?
A 411. Why can't that be a 411 conversation?
There wasn't time. We only have this week, and then new people start on Tuesday.
All right. Well, you can bring it up with me later in the day.
Afternoon's never good. Past lunch, everybody's tired. Everybody's doing appointments and leaving.
We have plenty of conversations. We do podcasts after lunch.
All I'm saying is there's never a perfect time, ever. So I prefer to just address things, because if I were to move offices, it would have taken 4 to 5 hours, if not longer, and I would have probably been here after hours working on it, finishing up, making it perfect, because that's what I do. So I wanted to make sure that I could, because as much as I have to prep people for it, I'm the one that's actually doing the work. So I want to make sure that I have give myself time to do my job and do that. That was why I brought it up right away, because it's a big deal to do that.
Yeah. So I know organizationally that's a lot of work. From on a higher level, like, this is taking a lot of time and effort and energy away from other things that we should be focused on.
To me, this is the foundation. If we don't have good energy flow and good placement of people.
I disagree. If we don't have sales, energy be damned. We can have the best energy in the world and have no sales.
Well, we are here already in the office. We already have these offices. Like, it's not a question of whether or not we have office space.
You just brought up an issue that's not an issue.
That's what I'm saying, is we have the space. There's no question of us being able to rent the space. We're already in it. We have new people starting next week. It's I believe it comes even before sales.
Nothing comes before sales.
Okay.
If we don't have sales, we don't have a business.
I understand.
We've talked about this at length. I mean, if I was an energy broker, then energy would be the most important thing.
I might become one. That might be what I sell next.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is that constructive?
That is how deeply I believe in energy. And if people come in and people start and they start selling, awesome. Maybe they don't even start selling, though. If we're not in flow and people aren't getting like the right vibe, we get a great vibe going right off the bat after they're done with the interview process. They've signed on, they're great. Literally where people are situated, it matters. I think it matters.
I think I am not disagreeing with you completely, but I would say who those people are matters more.
Okay.
And that's another part of the conversation I had with you, is that I feel like you're assigning the energy to the seat, and it's the people in the seats.
I do. And every person has a contribution for sure.
And Jessica and I have talked about it considerably, about what her role is and her ownership of that in that room.
Yeah, we just might agree to disagree on the idea of the play of energy. That's okay. We have a lot of different opinions, which is why we have conversations like this. And part of what makes us great is because we have completely different perspectives on some stuff. So I'm okay. Like, I'm good. I didn't want to pick up all my stuff and move it. It's not like I enjoy all the time moving and arranging things. But if it's in my personal space, if it's in our office in Command Central, I will do it without question. It's literally that important to me. I'm in that much of an energy junkie.
No, but do you understand though that you're deciding that on your own? Like, that's not a conversation.
This is just me talking about my personality. It's not a decision about anything. It's me knowing myself. And I brought it up as an option. And if it's not something you see or deem as necessary or think is like makes sense, then I'm okay with it. Like, I don't have to win all the time. I'm all right. I was just an option that I brought to you as the owner, and I knew you'd want to be confer with me about it before I did it. So otherwise I would have just done it. If this was just my office or whatever, I would just do it. But I'm not going to just do that when there's other people involved. So it's okay. It's just my belief. That's how I live. That's how, like, literally, and you know this about me. I've designed my house with this in mind. Like, this is how I function. This is how I put my furniture. It's just me. That's it.
I know, and on your house, you get to decide those things.
Which is why I came to you when it's not just my space.
I know, and I'm just wishing that there was less of an emotional charge to it when I disagree with you.
I mean, I'm really okay. We're just having a conversation. It's really all right.
I know, but I know you, and I know when we have a conversation, and I know when things are all right.
Okay, well, I'm telling you to believe me. We're good. I'm good to stay in my space. I love my space. I sit right by the natural light.
What's
good?
What are you not good about?
I'm not good about nothing. I'm good now. We're good. People are going to be in their office. They're going to do great. They're going to sell. Life goes on. If I need to move my room around for a change or something, Witten Command Central, I'll do that. I probably will do something once Sarah's on and doing her personal training completely and I bring in a new person. I probably will shift things around. That's just me. I can't change that part about myself. I believe that too strongly.
Yeah, it's just hard when I feel like
you're okay with disagreeing, right? Like, I mean, we've had many disagreements. You're okay with the fact that we're not on the same page with that. Like,
I am and I'm not. I am, but I'm not okay. You seem a little dismissive of. I feel a little dismissed when it comes to the importance of sales or the importance of the people, like, you know, in their roles and how they control the energy more than space or a room or a chair. You know, and so I like talking through those issues. So I like you to understand where I'm coming from. I like to understand where you're coming from. And so it's challenging to me when I tell you this is important and here's the reasons why. And you just say, I think energy is more important.
I mean, it's just a difference of opinion. I'm not saying that energy is more important than sales. You can hear that in your mind.
You're not saying that.
Okay, sales are more important than energy. Like Jesse, we're not, maybe you're making up something in your head that's not there. Like, I swear to you, I'm not saying that.
No, I think that's why it's important to have this. I think that's why this conversation will be interesting to record.
I'm sure it'll be really interesting.
And the reason I think it's interesting is because in the moment when we were talking about it,
whatever you heard from me made it sound that way.
No, the words that came from your mouth were on the side of energy, and you didn't say anything about sales being important.
Okay.
I mean it.
I believe what you're saying. I don't know what else to say. Like, I didn't mean it, so I'm saying it now. Sales are more important. Obviously, if we don't have money, we don't have a business. I can move my energy stuff around somewhere else.
No, and so that's the thing. That's the balance. The delicate balance is as an owner, as a business leader, like making sure you feel heard and understood. And I usually achieve that. I feel like we're good at that. You and I are good at that. Mm-hmm. You feel heard and understood, even if it's not, we don't end up choosing whatever it is you want to do. And vice versa. And if either of us don't feel heard or understood, that's why the conversation lingers. That's why we keep pushing it. Mm-hmm. And so, and what I see a little bit happening now is what I saw the first Tuesday on that conversation, which is you saying it's fine, but you're saying it in a way that it makes it seem like you're upset. Versus the next day, you had peace when we talked about it. Mm-hmm. And so, and I know it was dangerous to bring it up again because I don't want to stir up unreconciled feelings. But if they're there and they're unreconciled, we should talk about it.
Like the resentment circle?
What do you mean?
Like the idea of the resentment circle that we heard about?
Well, you heard about it, and I've only heard a 10-second explanation of it.
I have not really heard what it's about. I just heard it mentioned. That they do that in another team.
Well, why don't you explain it to me and the audience?
I have no idea what the resentment circle is, so if somebody out there knows, apparently it's something that one of Ben Kinney's teams does, or Ben Kinney does himself with his team members. If somebody has an issue, they bring it up and I'll talk about it in a circle. I was making a reference to a joke, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you bring up things again, and I know this is for the benefit of the podcast, but I'm really done with it. So I think what I get angry about is that you don't believe me. You say I look at, and I'm like, I don't even know how else to prove it to you. Do you want me to write it down? Do you want me to write a blog about it? Like, I'm done with it, and you don't seem to believe me. Like, you keep reading into like some body language that you see or something, and I can't change anything else. I don't know how to tell you any other way. This is where I feel like I'm speaking a different language.
No, and I understand that, and I do know that about you, and I know that you, even what we just talked about with the energy versus sales part, I know that you didn't express everything that you felt on the subject, like in support of sales. So while that's in your head, it wasn't expressed, and that's what I'm pushing for. And then when you express it, I'm happy. Then I'm good because it's expressed. I can't read your mind. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I think you said it. Or, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Do you ever think about the fact that you're like one of the best negotiators in the state? And when we talk, like, does that ever come to your mind? Because
No.
It comes to mind often for me.
Because you think I'm playing you?
No. You're really good with words, as we talk about on the podcast often, really good with vocabulary, words, English language, everything. And thank to God, I read as much as I did growing up, and like I'm comfortable with that. But oftentimes I'm like, wow, I could start negotiating just from what I've learned from you. Because sometimes I feel like, no, we're not sitting down to negotiate. But goodness, like it was intimidating in the beginning. I remember what it was like when I didn't know you at all. And it helps me to understand what it's like for some admin who don't know their leader at all. And even though I know you now, it's really a challenge sometimes. Like this was a perfect example of a challenge. To like, how do I convince you? How do I deal with that objection to help you understand something? Goodness, like.
No, again, that gentleman I talked to last night had mentioned that I can be intimidating to talk to because this is my words, not his, phonetically nimble.
Sure,
like
yeah.
I'm well read. My dad's an author of 7 books, I think. Has written for periodicals. He's 10 times more proficient in language than I am. Mm-hmm. And I know how I felt with him, and I know how other people felt around him. Mm-hmm. And they were intimidated because he could run laughs around people. Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I'm not intimidated by your use of words. I love that about you because I learned about that. And I love that you can, like the way that you can say things, like poetry, like the way that you talk. I love that. That's not intimidating to me. It's the negotiator in you that's intimidating to me. And at the same time, I'm so freaking stubborn and so set. Like I know myself and I know how I think and I believe in myself. Thank God I do. I don't think I could work with you if I didn't.
Yeah, but I'm not. So I understand your point. To answer your question, no, I don't think that I don't feel like I'm negotiating.
Okay.
I'm really working.
But do you think about yourself like that? Do you think like you are a really freaking good negotiator? I know you are.
But I never think of it that way. And here's what I mean. I know there are people. I can name a couple. How can I say this and not get someone in trouble? I know a story, an anecdote, an analogy of someone, a metaphor, of someone you and I both know who did a recreational event with an agent in our office.
This is going to be good.
And this event, there was a lot of high producing people there. Successful people.
Just so you guys know, there's like a movie going in my head of what this could be. I'm going to figure it out. A recreational event with other people in our office. Okay.
I'm going to I hope I don't get found out. So
they're probably not listening.
There's all these high level people, top producers, successful people. And it's a matter of somebody not knowing their space, not knowing their audience. Mm-hmm. And this guy, this agent from our office, just like talks effusively of how good he is, how great he is, how great his business is, what a powerful negotiator is, how he's the best, right? But he doesn't understand who he's with. And he's walking among giants. Yeah. The people around him are heads and shoulders above him in life in so many different ways, right? And it soured the attitude of everybody around him.
Oh, God.
Why? Because he's unaware. I practice awareness more than I practice negotiation. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm negotiating. I think I'm always seeking to understand. And I think that in what you might call negotiation, for me, is making sure that the other side knows my client's perspective. And I do my best to explain that perspective, and I try to make that perspective make more sense than anything else. And to me, it has to make the most sense. If it didn't make the most sense, I go to my client and I would tell them a story or a version that made more sense. And I feel like I can always go to anybody and use logic to persuade them to the best result. But I don't feel like I'm coercing people because all I'm really doing is bringing everyone along on the best path possible.
So, I mean, that makes total sense to me. And especially when you talk about the client's perspective, how do you relate that to like what Gary John Bishop says about your truth and my truth?
Yeah. So this is Jill, my fiance, and I have talked about this recently too. And I'll just bring it up. I can't remind me if I've talked about this before, but have I said what Will and Jada Smith talked about?
Not on the podcast, I don't think.
Okay. So Will Smith was interviewed recently, and he was asked a question about his wife, Jada Pickett Smith, and basically like, how do you make her happy, or how do you keep her happy in your relationship? And Will Smith basically said, I'm not responsible for her happiness. I'm responsible for my happiness. She's responsible for her happiness. And then it's our responsibility to like protect each other's happiness together. Like our happiness together, we have to protect together. But I'm responsible for my happiness. She's responsible for hers. If she's unhappy, nothing I can do can make her happy long term, right? That's on her. And I get that. And I do believe we all have a personal responsibility to not rush to judgment, to not make assumptions. I think it's common that people... Okay. I think it's common that people make up a dialogue in their head of what they think is going to happen. And then they react to that before it happens. And so I see people that are mad at me before they've even talked to me about what the issue is, because they've already decided how that dialogue is going to be and what I'm going to say, and now they're mad at me for something I never said. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's like exactly like what Susan Scott says. You don't tell the story before you have it. Yeah.
That part I get. I get that part, okay? Yeah. I get it. But that doesn't mean there's just no way we can have a business that runs effectively where you're in your bubble and I'm in my bubble and we live our truths independent of each other and we don't crash this business into 1,000 pieces. There's just no way. We have to have unified thinking in order to get where we want to go. Otherwise, we're all going in different directions. If we are a team of oxen pulling this wagon, we have to all move in the same direction at the same speed with a slight urge to accelerate at all times. And if we don't have that, we stall out or we go in 1,000 different directions and it's chaos. So that's what I'm saying. Yes, I understand you and I, we have personal responsibilities, okay? But my point is I came in control of my emotions and of my expectations may have been ill-conceived or ill-gotten. That I would be happy, you'd be happy to see me, that I'd be happy to see you, and that we'd high-five and hug and get to work. And that didn't happen. And so my point is I think I did everything I could to control that morning. And yeah, how I responded to what happened is my choice. But you know me well enough to know how I'm going to respond to a situation like that. And I have been pretty clear with you and other people in my life that I do have, I've learned, I know myself, and I know what I have proclivities, and I do my best not to go down those pathways. And if I look for signs that show me I'm going down the wrong path so I can turn around and go the other direction. And so I ask you to partner with me as my assistant, as my partner in business, as my friend, to help me not go down those pathways. And so, while I am personally responsible for my own decisions and how I respond to situations, I don't travel alone. You're on that journey with me, and I'm asking you as my co-pilot to not put me in that situation, to not lead me down that pathway. Mm-hmm. And that is interesting. When Margaret first came to work, when you first came to work for me, I told you that you were in control of the energy. I was very clear about it. And it's the one thing that you weren't totally comfortable with. You accepted it. Mm-hmm. And there are times when you don't like it. Mm-hmm. And I try to be cognizant of that. But you are. And I think your mom is. And I think you are you are a daughter in the lineage of these energetic people. Mm-hmm. And like it or not, you have to be queen someday. and so as much as you want to go play in the woods and be the pioneer's wife or whatever.
The pioneer's wife.
It is your claim to be queen of this energetic lineage. So wow. You're not escaping it.
No, apparently not. No. That was kind of a huge topic. Do you have oh goodness, any other ones we can jump into?
You did half of that without wine, which is why it got.
I drank a whole cup of my own.
If it got unfunny, it's your fault.
It's actually really good.
Gruner, Veltliner.
Reminds me of that guy we used to watch on YouTube who would drink a bottle of wine while he talked.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't watched him in forever.
Well, he's so snarky. And
I don't like him. I'm glad we're not like him. But we might have to do whiskey then wine, mix it so we get a little bit of each rather than always whiskey.
Wouldn't it be great if we could do this on a patio in the sunshine?
Yeah.
Drinking wine.
We could
I feel like podcast. Kathy Lee and Hoda. What? We're drinking white wine, talking about stuff into a microphone. I'm Hoda. I hate Kathy Lee.
Oh, okay.
Kathy Lee can get bent.
Oh my gosh.
I really don't like her at all. Just
solid.
All right. All right. Can we just put a?
I feel like there's a bow on that one. Thank God.
Everyone breathe a sigh of relief.
I'm gonna do an energy reset right now. Okay, next.
All right.
I'm glad you have an agenda because I have 2 topics on my thing and we've already covered.
Oh, well, you should go next then.
Oh, no, really? It's okay.
Really?
Yeah, totally.
What'd you think of Todd Dutzman's podcast since you weren't here for it?
I listened to it.
You listened to it.
Over the weekend, yes. It was awesome. I thought it was a great timing. You always have good timing with who to pick. Obviously, with me being in Maui and Todd's story, that was very, very, very good timing. I love his story. I had just seen him a couple weeks ago at a panel up in Marysville, and he had emailed me asking about a meditation app. So I thought, oh, how cool. His story always makes me cry. So as I was listening, I cried again. Just the part where he talks about the 2 people that ran up to him right after he was stuck in the sand. And then I realized I didn't realize how long he was stuck in the sand for with his head in the sand.
Well, I wanted to know, how did you feel when I retold the story?
Oh, it was scary as hell.
Of you getting slammed into the beach.
I forgot that the board had broke, and it did.
It had broken in half. It was bent in half.
Yeah, no, I hated that story. I told Jaggles about it while we were there.
And you were phased.
Yeah, we went back to Kaanapali Beach just for a day, and I just laid out on the beach while the way they shopped because that water is scarier. And so I know she didn't really want her son to go in there, but I went in just up to my waist a couple times, and it's very powerful, much more so than in Lahaina where we were at. So.
Do you think you were concussed that
Yes.
day? Yeah.
I remember walking down the beach with you just for a little bit to kind of shake it off. And yes, 100%.
You were seeing
stars. I was
stars.
very shit. Yes.
Externally, it looked like you were seeing stars.
I know. I think I blacked out for a second.
And I remember how scared I was because I'm like, oh, this is what happened to Todd.
Yeah. And in that kind of same depth, we weren't deep. We were maybe like just over our waist out there. Yeah, that was crazy. No, I thought the episode was excellent. I love Todd's outlook, and I love his story about Miriam walking him across the crosswalk. She remembers that day very clearly when he looked at her with kind of a strange look on his face, and she was like, what's happening? So I thought it was great. I really like the guy.
Yeah. Got some good feedback from people. I just love hearing from listeners and when a episode kind of hits them.
Yeah, Stephanie Neeson is the good friend of mine who she came to the retreat for the first time this year.
Yeah, Margaret's name drop.
Operations Retreat.
I heard from people too, and I didn't name drop them.
Well, I have to name drop Stephanie because she called specifically, or she emailed me because she wants to get Todd to come speak at our market center. So if you're interested in having Todd speak at your market center, you should reach out.
To who?
To his email and phone number that we put.
I like to know. I think they should reach out to us, and then
actually, yeah, good point. Because I like to hear. I think oftentimes. I think I got 3 text messages or Facebook messages while I was gone about the podcast. And I said, just so you know, thanks for telling me, because sometimes people don't think about.
I know. Let us be the arbiter of goodwill.
Yes. Well, it's feedback, right? I think I'm becoming a feedback junkie.
I know. It is kind of. Be careful with that.
I'm trying. But now if I don't hear about an episode, I'm like, oh, God, what did they think?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wonder what we'll hear about this one.
Yeah. I don't know if these other ones I want to bring up.
Come on, go for it.
Well, I did bring
real
up.
Talk. We've already talked
okay,
real talk.
We did this one. Intimidation, as you kind of touched on it. In this same conversation, it's come up several times this week that I'm intimidating. I intimidate some people, which I don't fully understand. I do understand it a little bit because as far as I've been successful. We continue to be successful in real estate. We are successfully, we have a team that's been operational for a long time. That's a success story. We talk to people all the time who try to build a team and it fail miserably because they're not good, effective leaders, first and foremost. So I know I can be intimidating, but I don't feel like that's my nature. I think I'm a big teddy bear. I think that once I feel like I'm welcoming of people and I want to know something about them and I engage them, I just don't suffer fools, I think is the main, like, you know what I mean? I just don't suffer fools. And I know if I have a weakness and a strength, it's my impatience. Like I am impatient to the core. And I work hard at it to not have that affect people, and I don't want to intimidate people. The friend I was talking to about the podcast, he talked about my verbal fluency and how that can be intimidating to people that don't want to maybe engage with me because of that. But I don't see it as a contest.
Well, that's to me just a lack of courage. Like, if I know someone's more intelligent about a certain topic or something, I will not stay away from them.
No,
why not? Why wouldn't you want to spend time with them?
I agree with you.
I would not. So I don't agree with that. But again, like that stuff doesn't. I'm not intimidated by that. I would say it's probably all stems from your impatience because that impacts your body language.
Yeah.
And I think that's purely it. And I think sometimes.
Well, I can't pretend for being.
No. Yeah. And why should we really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more of a natural people pleaser. And so I do actually have a high I. I was thinking about this when I was listening to Todd. I think it was in Todd's episode where you talked, another episode that we were talking about high I's and how you wouldn't hire an admin with a high I or very many people with an extreme high I. And that's what most real estate agents have. And so I think that versus your impatience does not bode well for, first time impressions. They want the warm, fuzzy, happy to see you, and that's just not something you're going to give right off the bat. And that doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
For others that are a higher I, perhaps that's if they don't see that, they're kind of like, ugh.
I don't know.
It's interesting. I'm getting that more often now.
And here's what I mean by this, by my lack of understanding is more in cases where these are people I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like that. Like I brought up that thing with you yesterday where you and I were having a conversation and someone came over and said hello to you and talked to you and then they They didn't even introduce themselves to me.
I know, that was my bad. I should have introduced.
No, I know, but I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so if that person's intimidated by me
and
they didn't even try to introduce themselves or get to know me, I'm like, I mean, I don't understand that level.
So I put that on them. And I wouldn't worry about it. If they are intimidated, they are. But that's also poor manners. Like, I don't care who I'm walking up to. And you've seen me at conferences. I mean, we mentioned one time where I walked up to a guy who is a well-known leader in the industry at Coaching Skills Camp. And I introduced myself to him in the middle while we were waiting for a bunch of people. And I said, I just wanted to tell him that I thought he did a really good job teaching a class that I'd been to. And he didn't give me the time of day. And then later on at a different event, he came up kind of to apologize. And so I think it's just poor manners, honestly. And I think I've realized in this industry, if a lot of people haven't worked in a different industry before, they come in with a lack of business experience and also a lack of networking and proper manners. Thank God my mom taught me, like from a very early age, we were volunteering and talking to people we didn't know all the time.
I know. I was thinking about this. You are a better networker than me, which is, well, here's why. Because I had to talk to Sagebrush. You know, like,
well, you had no one to talk to, literally.
Like,
my
dad didn't teach me how to network at all.
Mm-hmm.
My dad taught me to isolate myself from people.
Yeah.
He's like, people will hurt you.
He fostered your imagination and said, talk to no one. Believe what I believe.
So anyway, like, when I get weird in a room, I get weird in a networking room. Yeah. I wasn't taught that.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And
I think that's very true.
All right. I have 2 more items that came up.
Wow.
Recruiting, in parentheses, your job. So this came up on episode 34, and I think that's another whiskey
ASMR.
and ASMR episode.
Yeah, somebody was just listening to that one again.
Where I think you were having a bad day. And we all have bad days.
Yes.
I have bad days, and I hate it when we record a podcast on a bad day.
Absolutely. It doesn't work out well. Because usually there's only been twice when that's happened that I remember where we have not used it.
Yeah, twice we haven't used it, but one time we did use it, and I had a bad attitude, and now I get to hear it for the rest of my life. But in that episode, you talked about recruiting, and you had a pretty negative...
I'm trying to remember what I said.
Well, and I was like,
just listening to that episode.
And the conversation was, I was like expressing to you that it's your job, so I need you to do it. And so this person was just wondering if you had any difference, if you thought any differently about it since then.
Oh, this person, wow. If I felt, God, I'm trying to remember what I said. So that I didn't like it.
Well, think about how you feel about recruiting right now.
Yes.
Or think about how you felt about recruiting before you went on vacation.
Yes. No, I don't. I am a good recruiter, and I've had several people tell me this. I know I'm good at it, but I'm not passionate about it. And the part that I'm not passionate about, trying to think, nail it down exactly.
Is it the rejection?
No, I can be rejected all the time with that in that role.
Even if it's after
I'm trying to think,
interviews?
Well, I'm trying to think, is it the process? No, because I love the process. It's fun sitting down and talking to people.
Time efficiency?
You know what? Maybe it's you have to go through a lot of candidates. I'm going to have to think about this for some time. It's not my favorite thing in my job. And I think when I was talking to you about this, I remembered that something that I love about this industry and about this job is that I've been able to try so many different things, and it's helped me realize what I don't like and what I do like. I love marketing, PR, events. I love coming up with creative ideas for the podcast. I love, love, love the podcast more than I thought I ever would. The whole process of it, the publishing of the episodes.
Oh, you do love that?
I love...
I mean, there are times it doesn't seem
like there's times when it's pure hell. Yeah. I love the talking. I love the process of it. The recruiting process, you can't help but run into every gamut of type of person on the planet. That's the whole, kind of the game, right, is to find that nugget. And I don't enjoy the search for the nugget. So I end up talking to a lot of people, and I feel like it's a waste of my time, and I hate wasting my time. So kind of like you.
Oh, so it is time efficiency.
It's a similarity. Well, there's so many other things that I need to do in my job that when we are in active recruiting mode, right now, this is probably 70% of my time. And other things are getting pushed off to the side. Marketing, projects, the client event that I haven't even worked on yet. I also have hiring an admin on there. So it's just, it's not something that I've realized it's not something that I want to spend the majority of my time doing. So, my feelings are still the same person.
And then the last one, power struggle / balance. So
What did that mean?
Well, I brought this up to you after I spoke to him, because he said basically that he might be a little bit uncomfortable with the balance of power between you and I, that it is perhaps too equal.
What does he mean by that?
He means that,
we think of each other as partners. Is that too much for him?
I think he's saying that he's used to seeing teams where there is a clear and definitive leader, and then that other person is subordinate or in support of that person.
Okay. What do we do? My comments on that?
I think we should both comment on it.
Okay. Well, I talk about this in my class, and I think you have a slightly different opinion. But I feel like when you started going through your divorce and kind of had to take a step back, things changed in the business. And I know that it was never definitively said, but I was kind of put into a position where I started hiring more. It was around then I had hired Sarah, and then I started taking on the hiring process more. And things started happening, and I started taking more, I guess, initiative and leadership. And I also have always, I think part of my evolution in social media was I was trying to train the agents to get on video more, and I really wanted people to put themselves out there, because we were also working on changing the brand look a little bit so that people didn't think Pickett Street Jesse right away. They thought Pickett Street all the people. And that way it would take some of the pressure off you, and as it should be as a team. The fence is our logo. The fence is our brand. I think we do a really good job at not having it just be about you, because that's the goal, right? It's about the team. And I think in all the mix of all of this happening, I discovered how much I love leadership, how much I love teaching, and I wanted to lead by example. So I started putting myself out there on social media more, and I believe in leading with action. And I thought that by putting myself out there, other people would follow and be more open to being on social media and being in video. So I think in all of this happening, and that, I think that's, I've also grown to be more of a partner with you, I guess. So sure, there's power struggles. I mean, we're both leaders in our own right. When people think of Pickett Street, they think of both of us. So yeah, I'm sorry that he feels awkward. I don't really care, I guess.
Well, I don't know if he feels awkward or not. It's just a comment that he said.
Oh, okay.
And I would say that I understand what he means to a degree, which is just that, believe me, there are days where I wish that, like on this issue about the room, I wish that there wasn't a power struggle about it. I wish that we could try it out and see, and if it doesn't work, we can change it. There are I would say, this is kind of like the mineral rights conversation, or the decision tree model in fierce conversations. So let's go to I'll just say this about like the decision tree. And so for those that aren't familiar, and you can help me if I get this wrong, but if you think about a tree and you think about the root system and the bark and the trunk and the branches and the leaves, there are things you can take away from the tree that don't injure the tree greatly, right? Leaves can fall off, trees fine. So those are leaf decisions. Those are decisions you can make without talking to me.
Yeah, most of the time,
right?
Like paying bills, really basic things, posting the blog, all those little things.
Branch decisions would be maybe something to just run by me, but
like a client event,
like just to let me know.
A budget,
but it's not necessarily. I don't need to weigh in on it or anything, but you're just running by me, so I'm aware. And then you have
like the trunk, right?
The trunk decisions, and those,
I would say those are like hires.
Those are I have to be involved in.
Yeah.
And then the roots those are my decisions. Like I'm the leader. I get to because those could kill the tree.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like we've done a really good job with that. And so I think what people aren't used to seeing is someone other than the leader being promoted to a place where they're making trunk decisions. So you've had leave, you've graduated to branch, you know what I mean? To the point where I trust you almost implicitly, and this is gonna happen, right? As you graduate from branch to trunk, there's gonna be some coaching, and there's gonna be some expectation setting, and so I know I'm not worried about it because of who I'm partnered with. So,
well, I have to say, like, that's what I was thinking of as you were talking was I'm very sensitive to the fact that previous partnerships for you have not worked out. I pay attention to everything. Even if I wasn't there at the time, you've talked about it enough, and I've met those people, and I know I have studied you, and I've studied the people you've worked with. I'm like a detective. And so because of that, though, that is my intel.
Oh my gosh. Can I please request a meme of Margaret, like in a fedora and a high collared duster?
Well, so I do my research, and it's part of why I'm good at what I do. I know this part of, and that's how I started out in this job was I did my research, and I very much know when to approach you about things and when to not. Sometimes I don't have the best guess on timing, obviously. But I've known when to take baby steps, and I will never, ever ask to be your partner in the business. I will let you ask me to be that. Like I know how that works, and I also don't want to be someone's partner if you didn't want it. Yeah, I'm not technically an owner in Pickett Street yet, and so ultimately you have the final say and everything.
But that is something we've talked about.
We've talked about it for sure. And knowing what I know now about business, I wouldn't have said this probably back at the beginning, but I wouldn't want to be in partnership with hardly anyone I know, except for you and maybe one other person, because now I know what goes into it, and I've seen it not work out, and I've seen how ugly it can get. So when people come to me and you and they ask us about people that we know that have partnered in a business, like husband and wife couples, or like Kevin and Fred with Group 4610, and they ask if we think it'll work out, I mean, I would say probably 95% of the time, both you and I are like, no, don't do it. In very rare occasions have we seen it be a positive thing. So I would just say, like, I think the reason we do this podcast is to show people a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of what these conversations look like and why so many people don't get to this point. So they won't have these conversations. They don't want to even attempt. And now this is like, I'm glad, like, I'm really grateful for my level of comfort. And I've had people tell me in my personal relationships, we could switch to my last topic. This would be a good. So when we talk about dating, I've had people tell me in my personal life that guys are going to have a hard time because I'm so blunt, apparently, and like not afraid. I like to have deep conversations, and thanks to you and thanks to like the opportunity on Pickett Street, I'm not afraid of having hard conversations. And so I have them so much now in my personal life that I think my family and my friends and my potential boyfriends are like, oh God, this is really hard. So
I don't think that's a factor.
What do you mean?
I think your family is mistaken. I think it's a fear, but it's not real. Here's why. If you had dated 10 guys and then you saw the same thing happen to each relationship, then I would say, okay, that's founded. Mm-hmm. But that's not the case. Mm-hmm. It's more a case of you slowing down and making time to date. Mm-hmm. And because you like to work and you you have a lot of things you like to do, and you're unapologetic about it, as you should be. Mm-hmm. And you haven't made that a priority. Mm-hmm. So it's just simply you making that a priority. And then just like anything you do, you'll have results. Mm-hmm. But you have to make it a priority. So
yes, it's becoming a priority.
I mean, it's so funny. I made fun of you that time we were at lunch, and you announced to the waitress that you were dating. Mm-hmm. But what's really true about that statement is you had decided that you were now going to start dating. Mm-hmm. So I get why you said it that way, because you were saying, I'm going to make room in my life for this. And I haven't previously done that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
So I don't think you can say that it's not, you don't have a boyfriend or something because of you're too powerful or you're too outspoken.
No, you're right. Yeah. I haven't made space for it.
Right.
Yeah. No, but I mean, to go back to the conversation piece, the thing that I love about one of the things I love about this podcast and is just opening up the idea for people to listen to this, because it's not an easy thing. And it's not, I love that whole tree example that Susan gives that you used, because that is as simple as it may sound. I talk to people about using that because they don't know how to divvy out those decisions. And like, when do they get to this point where you're giving away hiring decisions or giving away the opportunity for someone to learn how to hire?
Well, and when you were gone, Sarah covered for you, and you and I both know I love Sarah. Sarah knows I love Sarah. Sarah also knows she frustrated the F out of me. And part of that was because she was bringing me leaf decisions. Like, she was bringing me leaf decisions. And I can't be bothered with that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's not her fault for not knowing. Mm-hmm. She's trying to be proactive. Mm-hmm. But it's a good intention that isn't effective. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting questions brought up by our listener. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I was going to text you last night, tell you to get some feedback from some people so we'd have things to talk about. But
apparently we got all the feedback we needed. Yeah, if he or she wants to do that regularly, that's kind of fun.
How's your Gruner Veltliner?
It's delicious.
Yeah.
We're done.
I took a picture of the label in case people want to.
Good, we'll need that for the show
in case
notes.
They want to order a bottle and drink along with us as they listen.
And then we could have them hashtag the company, and maybe they'd be our sponsor.
It's crisp, refreshing.
Like a green apple.
With notes of green apple and lemongrass.
Oh, lemongrass. Made with organic grapes. It's delicious.
Do you like the sound of fingertips on glass? Or
it doesn't bug me. It's okay.
You know what bothers me about it is those fingers leave fingerprints behind.
Yeah, of course you think about that.
Dirty. It's a dirty glass. It's a filthy, dirty glass.
Oh my gosh. Of course.
Now I don't want to touch it. Margaret, I'm glad you're back.
Are you fully? I'm glad to be back.
I was glad the first day.
Well, I'm glad to be back, and it's especially happy because we're adding to our team, which you guys did while I was gone.
I think we're gonna hire 3 people in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, high five. That's huge. It's huge, and I actually, I don't say this every time. I think they're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah, I think so too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited.
It's exciting.
To. We should talk about it momentarily. Okay. We hired a showing agent.
Yes,
Jessica.
Amen.
Jessica, our lead buyer's agent,
excited.
Is too busy. She's.
We haven't had a showing specialist in.
She's
a couple years.
Admittedly, being an a-hole to her boyfriend.
She's gonna hate to hear that.
And
I love her so much. She's so open about sharing stuff.
Right? And we have to get her help. So
yeah, she legitimately she needs help.
Her family doesn't leave her.
Her family's gonna hate us. So Jared, don't hate us. No, I'm super excited. I think. Can we say who it is?
Yeah.
Okay. His name's Spencer Smith. It's another Smith.
And he's a hard worker, and he wants to help people.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna help Jessica show our buyers.
It's gonna be excellent.
And then Daniel Wessel is a client of ours.
Maybe some listeners might know him.
Long-term investor who got his license and also wants to just help people.
Yeah, huge heart, both these guys.
So we're
gonna have some men on the team. We haven't had like a lot of dudes on the team for a while. Like we've had you. I'm not saying you're not a man.
It's gonna be 50-50.
It's gonna be weird.
It's gonna be 50-50.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. No, I'm really excited about both these guys. Genuine, man. You don't get more genuine. And it sounds like both of their commitment interviews were just darling. I mean,
there's not an evil between the two of them. There's not an evil thought in their heads.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, good things to come. And it's almost July.
It's almost July.
Yeah.
So you have orientation for new agents. Mm-hmm. I gotta step up my training game.
Step it up. You're ready.
Yeah. Get ready to get ready.
Yeah. And then your trip's coming up.
My trip is coming up. I'm headed to Prague to see my friend Diane Griffin get
That's
married.
going to be fun.
And then we're going to Amsterdam for a few days after that. So
That's going to be exciting.
Little European summer vacation.
Some of the images I've seen of Prague online from other people going look amazing. It's going to be cool.
I just hope my back loosens up so I can walk around Europe.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same when you're in a hover round.
No. You're not going to be in a hover round. I got to get you on that. Yeah. Stretch you out.
I was supposed to get a cortisone shot and insurance turned it down. So that's fun.
Not at all.
I had to explain to somebody. They're like, oh, well, and they haven't dealt with the healthcare system. Neither have I until recently.
Yeah.
And you'd think it, if you don't know, you think it runs like a business. Like,
Yeah.
wait, like, let's just say for a second, well, in my example, I had to push for an MRI.
Yeah.
And then after I got the MRI, they contacted me with the results, but then I had to push for the next appointment and every appointment thereafter. And, we're talking about, there's a lot of big questions up in the air.
Yeah.
And they didn't push it forward at all. I had to push it forward.
That is one of the few things I learned from my experience at working at the Veterans Hospital, which is not the same as, but I worked a little bit in public health. And then when my mom was first diagnosed with cancer, I went to her appointments. And I had heard from other people that are nurses and such and other social workers that you really have to advocate for yourself. But holy crap, you do. Yeah. You're the one to set the appointments. You're the one to call back and follow up always. And that's why I went with my mom on her appointments, because if we didn't set them or push it forward, they actually didn't, which is scary. And she had cancer.
So it's hard, it's weird to push forward and then have the insurance company tell you no.
Say no.
Yeah.
Is there another option to go for?
Oh, I realize I'm part of the problem.
What do you mean?
And I mean this super authentically. It's just that, and I don't have any hatred or bad feelings about it. It's just the way it is. But the way we grew up was to not complain.
Oh, for sure.
I literally grew up you just got hurt. Mm-hmm. When you work on a ranch, you get kicked, you get stepped on, you get bruises aplenty, but you don't complain about it.
Yeah. And
complaining's not welcome.
Yeah.
So you don't. And then if people ask you if you're okay, you say you're fine when you're not. Mm-hmm. And so you grow up and you become an adult and you don't go to the doctor, and then the doctor says, where's it hurt? Oh, I'm fine. It hurts a little here. But I couldn't describe the pain because I wasn't focused on it. I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I probably minimized it.
Yeah.
So now the insurance company thinks that I'm not in enough pain.
Oh, I see.
To get a shot, or it's not the right type of pain.
Can you go to another doctor and have them?
No, I need to effectively describe my pain.
Okay.
And so I've become more aware of where the pain is.
So is it actually hurting more now?
Yeah. Where the pain is and when I feel pain and what kind of pain is it and what are the other symptoms that accompany that. And then I have to be able to describe that effectively.
Wow. And
so that's the next mission, is just to be more.
You have to do a scale of 1 to 10. How do they judge how harsh it is?
Jill gave so. Have I ever been? I'll ask you this: Have you ever been in conversation with me and I've had to stop the conversation because I needed to sit down or I needed to change my position? Okay, that's a level of pain that warrants attention.
Okay.
If it's disruptive. Yeah. Right. I literally had to stop a conversation and pivot or move or sit down or stand up, and so that's informative to a doctor, right? If I can't
function daily life,
and have a normal daily life, then that tells them something. So I have to be better about describing things in that way.
Okay.
So
good to know. Well, definitely something to dive into more because it impacts everything else in your life.
Margaret, you lush. You're supposed to save just a tiny bit. So
you call me a lush. Oh my gosh.
All right. Welcome back, Margaret. Oh, well, one quick question.
Oh, no. Yes.
How was your vacation?
It was lovely. I love Maui. I'm for For those of you that know crystals or work with crystals, I'm like a crystal that when you put it under the sun, I like recharge back up. So, yeah, Maui does that for me, and I love the ocean. I'm gonna live on the ocean someday. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When's your next vacation? We've talked about this. You should know the answer.
Are we talking about Amplify?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Yes. You just, that was a nice, I don't know if that was planned or not, but you told me to book a ticket to the Amplify retreat, which is being hosted by 10 of your friends and women in the real estate industry that I know of a little bit, but I don't know really well. So I just booked my ticket last night to Florida. Mm-hmm. I didn't book the plane ticket. I booked the ticket for the retreat.
You registered?
Mm-hmm.
Good job. Cheers to that.
Thank you. Delicious.
Well, welcome back, Margaret. Glad to have you back.
Thank you. I think.
So it was peaceful while you were gone.
No trouble caused, yeah.
Oh, all my emotions were even.
Oh, God.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Until next time, everybody.
Have a good day.